Buckle up, sports fanatics. This is the Sports Chasers Podcast, your HQ for in-depth sports talk. Join host Kevin L. Warren and crew as they dissect the hottest stories, ignite debates, and bring you closer to the action. From locker room whispers to expert takes, we cover it all. It's game time, so strap in and grab a drink. The Sports Chasers Podcast starts right now.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's happening, everybody? It's another edition of the Sports Chasers Podcast coming to you. We're not live tonight, but hey, this is the interview sessions of the Sports Chasers Podcast where, hey, we select those or we talk to those people that have interesting, intriguing stories, and we talk to them, rock with them for about 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes more. And we make it do what it do when it comes to the world of sports. Tonight, we got a very special treat for you tonight. But before we introduce our special guest, let's meet the crew. There's only one crew member with us tonight. We got the DA. Yep. DA, what's up? What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Tired, but here to do it, man. Been a long day, but it's all good, man. We're here.
Yeah, we are definitely here, man. Ain't going nowhere, man. Like I said, this is the interview session, man. This is recorded on the Tuesday, August 27th. And hey, it'll be released the next day at 9 o'clock on the YouTube channel and all podcast platforms. Make sure, speaking of which, make sure you give us that 5-star review on all podcast platforms. Also on the YouTube side, make sure you like, click, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you also share the channel. If you love us like that, hey, man, hang out with us with those super chats. Hey, all those betting folks, make sure you go to our website, sportschaserspodcast.net. Go to the affiliate merchandise link on the website. Hey, sign up for BetStamp for all my bettors. Hey, remember, fantasy football season started. Hey, college football started. Hey, we're going to talk about FSU and Georgia Tech on Thursday. We'll get to that on Thursday. But tonight, we got a special guest. Let me introduce our special guest. He's from Boston, Massachusetts. He is a retired Boston firefighter, 23 years of service. Thank you, sir, for your service. He's from, like I say, he's from Boston and loves all things Boston when it comes to sports, the Patriots, the Celtics, the Bruins, and of course, the Red Sox. As me and DA, we're Yankee fans, and I'm a Giant fans. Hey, we beat Brady twice. He also has a fictional tale, a book about the fictional tale of Matthew Gordon, a high school freshman with Down syndrome. Initially shamed and bullied, he manages to find acceptance and admiration in the most unlikely place, simply by being himself. So, without further ado, hey, let's meet our guest for tonight. Let me unmute his mic. Hey, Garrett Stapleton is our guest. Welcome, Garrett, to the show, man. Let me give you some applause, sir. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. My pleasure to be here. It's nice to meet you and the DA.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here.
Thank you, Garrett. Thank you, Garrett, so much, man. So, hey, lot to talk to you about the world of sports. Thank you for coming on the show, man. And we connected via Pod Match, man. And Garrett, he has like I said, he's a lot of accomplishment. He's a firefighter. Like I said, thank you for your service, 23 years of service with the Boston Fire Department. All things Boston. He's a fan. So this is going to be very interesting tonight. We got a couple of New Yorkers, and we got a guy from Boston. I've been to Boston twice. And I would love to get down that accent, man. But Garrett, how's it going tonight? How's everything with you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. The Celtics won yet another world championship, so we just had to
well deserved. The
other 17 that were there. So things are good in Boston. The Red Sox are struggling, but overall things are really good. I got no complaints, and I love talking to New Yorkers. This should be a blast.
Oh, thank you, sir. I'm not a Boston hater unless you guys are good. So when you're not good, I'm fine with you being you're no longer evil Empire 1.0 or something. You guys just say, we're not going to spend for a few years. And I understand. I kind of, half-heartedly wish we'd stop spending some time. So, but it is what it is.
I don't know. I just like our teams trying as hard as they can, whether it's spending or scouting or whatever it takes. Try as hard as you can because it costs us a lot of money to watch and follow along. So, whatever it takes. Like we said earlier, if everybody's doing it, do it. Then spend the money that you're making and put out a good product, which the Red Sox haven't done for years now.
You got to try.
You got to try.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, Garrett, let me bring you back to the first year when the Red Sox won for the first time in, what was it? How many years?
86.
86 years, right? I came close a couple of times. I was young, living in New York with the whole it gets by Buckner. I know that was kind of painful, but I remember that Mets fans were going crazy with that. Y'all was one strike away. What was it? Kelvin, what was his name? Schiraldi, I think his name.
Calvin
Schiraldi, right. One strike away and couldn't get it done. That was very heartbreaking for a Red Sox fan.
1977.
There you go. The list goes on and on as heartbreak for Red Sox fans. But tell me, how did it feel when y'all won that championship? Y'all finally got it done after 86 years as a Red Sox.
It was fantastic because none of us really had ever seen it before. And just to reference the 86 World Series for a second, I was working on the fire department and I was off on game 6 where Carlton Fisk hit that home run that is always played and all that. Yes. And I was working the night of the 7th game and we were watching the 7th game. And then we got called into a fire, and the fire was in a restaurant in downtown Boston. And it was so smoky, you couldn't see anything, but you could hear the game on in the background. While we were there, the Mets were making their comeback. So by the time we had a hose wrapped up and got back into the station, the Red Sox were done like toast. But fast forward to 2004, it still is unbelievable to me. I think it's the only team that ever came back from a 3-0 deficit.
3-0 deficit.
3-0 deficit. And in game 3, what people don't realize, they always say Alex Rodriguez is a choker or he's not up to the task. He had a couple of home runs or a couple of shots in game 3 that the Yankees won 19-8. So if that game 4 hadn't turned around, he would have been one of the stars of that series.
Yeah.
It all just flipped on a dime.
Let me tell you about that series. So when we won that, I'll never forget. And he's not on tonight, my brother. Me and him was watching in the basement in Brooklyn, and I said, "Man, looks like we get ready to hang number 27, man. We get ready to Red Sox." And then, like I said, you come back for the first time ever. It definitely really hurt, especially coming from the Red Sox.
Well, that was on the heels of losing Game 7 in 2003 to the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. And I believe it was Aaron Boone, I think, hit a home run.
Aaron Boone, right down the left field line, correct.
So that was the game that Grady Little, I think was his name, the Red Sox.
Yeah, Red Sox manager, correct.
He left Pedro out on the mound when it looked to everybody else like the guy was gassed. And once the hit started coming, that was the end of it. So that made 2004 even more sweet because we had just been crushed again by the Yankees. And to come back from that, I still really don't believe it. I feel like I dreamt it, but it happened. So, and the funniest thing is you go 86 years without a World Series. We have the most World Series wins in this century. We have 4 now, and I forget who's right behind us. Someone has 3, but
I think the Giants have 3. Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of ironic to me because we followed for a long time where we were always a non-factor.
You guys got on a roll, and it's it looked like once you guys kind of caught your stride, not from the playing perspective, but from the scouting and bringing up timely pitchers, and you guys started to get good at that. And to me, That's what's most important. When you can do that, you're good to go.
Well, and
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
They had a new owner, John Henry, with his group, and they had deep pockets. So one of the first free agents they got was Manny Ramirez.
Right.
And he's one of the few free agent signings that I think was worth the price that they paid, because usually those things just don't work out, especially for the length of time that they sign people. Ohtani, they just signed him for 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
What is he going to be in 3 years, 10 years?
Yeah.
So those things usually don't work out, but the Red Sox did finally start spending some money and had a good farm system, to your point. And Theo Epstein was the general manager. He was a very smart baseball guy.
Yeah,
and
I think
that seemed to turn it right there.
Hey, he stopped 2 curses, the Red Sox and the Cubs.
That's right.
Yeah.
The Cubs was over 100 years.
Yeah. So shout out to Theo.
Yeah. And Theo kind of did that one in the middle of the season. So, well, yeah, because they weren't running away with it. So,
right.
Well, the rule changes they made in baseball have been really awesome, because the games, I can remember Red Sox Yankee games back in the early 2000s, be 5 hours, 4.5, 5 hours.
Yeah.
Batters would walk around over to the on deck circle, get all this stuff. And the thing that I didn't anticipate was when they banned the shift, all of a sudden ground balls are going through again now as base hits, where before you had someone move over from the other side of the infield. And those were always gobbled up. I never really realized the impact that it had until they took that option away. So the games are faster. They make the pitches go faster. And I think they did the right thing overall for the sport. It was just too slow.
Yeah.
I'll piggyback on that. When I kind of equated the shift to almost like a legal defense in basketball when they had it. They don't do that no more, but that's another thought for another day. It just, like you said, it clogged up. It didn't make athletes no more. So you can just shift the whole team over to the guy who's a dead pull hitter. Now, I even saw that play called a couple of months ago. The Yankees were playing Milwaukee. Yeah, and they called it a balk, right? And yeah, so you can't be on the other side of the bag. I think baseball has had absolutely, like you said, Garrett, made some good moves. I don't agree. So glad to talk to a baseball guy. I don't like the runner on second base in extra innings. I can do without that. Because you don't do that when it comes time for postseason. Why do it then? I don't like that.
Well, I'll equate that to hockey. In hockey, they play a 5-minute overtime and then they do a shootout because they want to settle the game. It's a regular season game.
They want people all day.
Playoffs, the overtimes can go all night long. So that doesn't bother me, because I've been to games where I've sat there for 15, 16 innings. After a while, you're just like, anybody score so I can get out of here, So I kind of enjoy it. But
the one thing, Garrett, that I was a little reticent about with the shift, and I'm old, man. It showed that we do not have a glut of professional hitters, because if it was Tony Gwynn, he would just hit the ball where people weren't.
Right.
Rock Rue hit the ball where there are not people. Like, it's not that hard. It's really, if you play baseball, it's not that hard.
Choke up on the bat.
Let it go. That's it.
Well, Ortiz was in my mind, he was the greatest Red Sox hitter, clutch hitter. And he used to just spray the ball off the left field wall with a flick of his wrist.
Yeah.
And many times over it. But it just seemed like all he had to do was just make one slight change. He could slap that wall all day long if he wanted to.
310 feet away. Yeah.
Right.
It's not, it just, to me, kind of showed that, we're in the age of launch angles and so forth and so on, as opposed to guys really knowing how to hit. But hitting is coming back. And I think that it's probably due some to the speed of the game. You don't get to sitting there in your high chair in the batter's box for 5 minutes waiting for a pitch, right? You can hit the one you want. You got to kind of go. And that sense of urgency, I think it helps the game. And that's
I'm glad to see that they are enforcing that.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was a Red Sox game recently where he made a mistake at the plate. He wasn't in there on time. Runners on base, 2 outs. He got called out. It was an automatic strike at an important point of the game. And I wasn't mad. I was glad they were enforcing this. Keep enforcing this so you don't give any wiggle room to it, and the games can end in a 3 hour and 20-minute fashion.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're down 25 minutes a game on average, maybe 30 on average. And that's good with the amount of games played in the season. It's spectacular. Let me ask you a question, though, Garrett. Okay, so when you were a fireman in Boston,
yes,
did you guys play in those fireman football leagues, like you play the New York City Fire Department football team, or the?
Well, we had we played softball and we played ice hockey. We didn't play football.
Okay.
But we did those 2 sports, and if you had any kind of a sports background, you usually did pretty well in those areas because there were a lot of firefighters that are not athletes, believe it or not. So I was very average, but I was elevated by the mediocrity surrounding me. So I fooled them for a couple of years, and then that was it.
Yeah, well, I know the fire department, New York Fire Department hockey team is really good.
Yes.
Their football team was actually really good too. They were actually a semi-pro team on their own, I guess. And football team, police department wasn't as good. They were okay, just okay. But, yeah.
We had some good hockey games against the New York Fire Department. Would go there, or they would come here, for a benefit.
Yeah.
And, some of those games were pretty intense.
Yeah. Those guys are good. A lot of ex high school, college hockey players, that played, on those teams. So yeah, it was that was I remember going to watch some games, and I was like, wow, these guys are pretty good,
Yep.
You kind of think it's just some guys, in shape because you're fireman, right? You got, you're running up flights of stairs with hoses, but the skill, I was like, okay, you can keep the puck on the stick. This is okay.
To your point, there were a lot of high school all-star players that became firefighters and police officers. So in the hockey games, we had some really good high school players, some college also that stood out. So those games were really competitive, and there was no love lost between Boston and New York during those games.
So the checking was for real.
The checking was for real. I'm surprised they didn't fight, but they didn't. Maybe after the game.
It's a benefit. You don't want to look bad in front of the wife and kids fighting at a benefit. It doesn't look good. Dad, you were fighting.
So Garrett, let me stay in the same vein as hockey. The Bruins, last time they won the Cup, 2011. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe, right?
Yep.
President's Cup trophy winners. Not last year because my Rangers were, and look where we ended up. And you guys were the year before. Talk about you growing up and loving the Bruins and your relationship and how you love hockey.
Well, we were born in a part of the country close to you where, winters were long and they were cold. And we had one skating rink. So when we were very young, we were taken down there and taught how to skate. I can remember being 5 years old on a pair of skates that had 2 blades each. So you were more walking out there than anything. And I was dressed up like Superman with a Frankenstein face for a Halloween skate out there.
Yeah.
And so that's where it all started.
That's
and
cool.
So we loved hockey, but then Bobby Orr showed up, who's just really someone that you've heard about. I don't think you were around when he played.
No.
And he changed everything. It's kind of ironic because back then it was very hard to get games on TV. They'd get some road games, but they wouldn't get home games because they were always protecting the gate, and they wanted to make sure the games were sold out. So we only saw them play at home on national broadcasts on Sundays and then in the playoffs. So if it was like today where you can get every single game, it would have been great because Bobby Orr was unbelievable. I don't want to sound like a rickety old man, but he really was something else.
Talk about it.
And he inspired the whole town
Right.
to the city to change. They started building skating rinks all around everywhere, all the towns and everything. It just exploded. Everybody wanted to be the next Bobby Orr. So it was great. It was a great run. He had bad knees and his career ended prematurely, but he showed us the love of the game and we followed along with it. And that's when it really did take off. And hockey is, it's up there really. I know people will disagree with me because this might be my first recollection. Thank you. But it was a hockey town. But it might have been a hockey town because of the Patriots were nothing and the Celtics were unbelievable, but nobody had an interest in it. And we didn't play basketball. I didn't know basketball growing up. I started following basketball when Hal Cowan showed up, and then when Bird and McHale and those guys showed up, we started following then. But as kids, we didn't. And the Red Sox were always terrible, and the Yankees were always beating us like it's with a drum. And it just got too frustrating to put up with it. It seemed like the Yankees won every other year. So hockey was the more rewarding sport for us. So that's how I remember it, as being a hockey town. And but then Tom Brady comes along and for 20 years gives you 9 Super Bowl appearances. That's all anybody ever talks about now. And who wouldn't really? It's unmatched. Yeah. So it's a football town now, and football's big, I think, because of gambling and the fantasy leagues and stuff like that. So I think football is going to always reign in the future because of those aspects. But with the Patriots, it's they keep talking about the next Brady, and Brady wouldn't have done this or that. And I'm just sitting there saying, this is a once in a lifetime player that we were blessed to see every game, who delivered 70% of the time.
Yeah.
What are you looking for? Are you looking for another one of those guys? I don't know. Maybe Mahomes is going to be one, but they're going to be hard to find. That's for sure.
Yeah. And, I wouldn't. I thought Steve Grogan was a great quarterback. I thought, his name was just there. The guy that Brady replaced. Bledsoe. Drew. Yeah.
Oh, Drew Bledsoe.
Quarterback. If he hadn't got hurt, I think he would have had. I'm not gonna say I can't. I'm not a mind reader, so I don't like to do speculatives. So I can't speculate on what he would have done. I just know he was a good quarterback.
He was very good. He was a very good quarterback.
Yeah, and I think everybody at that level works hard, so forth, so on.
100%.
It was a perfect storm, man. They had a good defense, good coach. And regardless of what guys that played for Belichick now, they say about, how they would rather do this or do that than, I guess kind of the regime that they were under. They only say it now. No one says it when they were playing because, you dug winning because, winning is good. It's fun. And there's always side money to make when you're winning. So, I don't think people complained while there, guys. Couldn't talk to the press, couldn't do this, couldn't do that. So it's part of the game. You look at Belichick now. We just laughed about that a week or two ago. He was doing interviews, laughing, joking. I said he did. He's a company man. If people don't understand what that means, is you do what you have to do while you work for the boss. And if the boss says we don't do we don't like to say things in interviews, okay. That doesn't mean that, but we've heard for years that Belichick had a heck of a sense of humor. But we're like, really? What?
Well, we never saw it here either. So it's totally different off camera, which most people are. Yeah, but we just never saw it here.
But just to go back to the Bruins, and I don't want to be Johnny Raincloud on the Bobby Orr thing, but I got That's what I asked, man. Right. So we're going back like 5 years, right? So 2020. What you lost to Tampa Bay. 2021, I think you lost to the Hurricanes. 2022, I think it was Tampa Bay, right? Was it Tampa Bay in 2022?
I think so.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay's been good. They won.
Yeah, no. They've lost the champions. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm saying this to say that they've been a great team going on 6 years. From a record perspective, they probably overall, and I haven't added it up, they may have the best win-loss overall over the last 6 years.
They have the best win-loss record over the last 15 years in the NHL.
Okay, so
all regular season, but that's not.
Yeah, so Garrett, you clip the coach, you get a new coach, right? And same thing last year. And we're all waiting for the new coach to turn the corner. Same wall.
Be honest with you, their new coach, Montgomery, they've had 2 fantastic regular seasons.
Yes.
The one last year set the record for the most wins of all time.
Yes, sir.
In the regular season. And this year they were right up there again. But for some reason, they just don't have the chemistry in the playoffs. The playoffs, like in any other sport, is more intense, and you've got to go harder, and you've got to be aggressive. And for whatever reason, they've been pushed around really in the playoffs for the last, 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it's been. It's always seemed like they were undersized, and they've always had great goaltending that's kept them in games that they probably shouldn't have been in. So they have to figure out the formula for bringing in players that, might just have an average regular season, but then turn it up when the playoffs come so that you're feared. I don't think they're feared by any opponent in the playoffs, and you need to be feared.
They don't have huge hitters, and it's unlike other sports. You can't hide guys and rest guys in hockey.
No.
So you got to play anyway all season. But how do you keep guys fresher? It's just not like baseball. You can't platoon nobody. I don't know how I'm not sure what the mix is and how to do it, because I don't think even most Stanley Cup champions know what it is till they're there and they get in the playoffs and they're on the run and everybody's relatively healthy, because I don't think in hockey is fast.
Well, that's exactly what it is. That's a good point by you, is that it's really sometimes the healthiest team that makes the best run. And if you have a team like Florida last year, not this past year where they won the cup, but the year before, they had to play like crazy just to get into the playoffs, and they were on fire and carried that all the way through the finals, where the Bruins that year didn't play a meaningful game after Christmas. So they were coasting, basically trying to set this record. But it really is time and situation, and you get hot at the right time. And if you're healthy enough at the right time, which you can't control, the stars just have to align for you, and that's how you win. That's why I tip my cap to any kind of a dynasty, because to maintain something over a series of years that's almost impossible in 1 year is especially rare. So if you run into that situation, just sit back and enjoy it for as long as it runs, because you're not going to see it too often.
Yeah, I mean, we watched over the last few years on the podcast, we were always like, okay, here it comes, best team, in the Atlantic, they're ready to go,
Yeah, that President's Cup curse.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah,
it is a curse. We say it's been a curse in NHL forever. It's still like, come on.
It's been a curse. I think we've won it a couple of times. We might have won it 3 times in the last 12 years.
Yeah. Come on, man.
The year we won the cup, we didn't win it that year either. So,
but I guess it goes to your point, and I'll bring this up for the rest of, this year on the podcast. Maybe it's that no meaningful games after Christmas can really be a detriment, because you don't get a chance to bring in, let you make a trade for a guy that's a little fresher, maybe was on a team, wasn't playing a lot, older guy, was on the line that didn't get in much, or what. No, but every line plays equal. So,
Yeah.
well, you get a guy who's not playing a whole bunch or anything meaningful, and maybe he's chomping at the bit, and you bring him in right before the playoffs, so he's ready to go. I'm really just not sure, like what you guys can do, because anything else from a fan perspective, watching hockey, you guys have done once, twice, 3 times over the last 5 years, where you go into the playoffs as the prohibitive favorite.
Well, and that's the problem with the President's Trophy too, is most teams that win the President's Trophy don't face adversity the second half of the season. So when you get your first taste of it in the playoffs, which is hockey on steroids, you just start to panic because it's not familiar territory to you. What do you mean we're losing? What do you mean we can't get shots on net? So you start to panic. And I think that can happen to any team. And I think it has happened to the Bruins a couple of times. But any team that's in that position, that's coasting in, and all of a sudden now you find yourself in a deficit, it can just feel so unfamiliar to you that you really start playing out of your element. And sometimes you end up beating yourself.
I kind of think it may be symptomatic of hockey itself, because you can't coast and play hard at the same time. So if you're coasting, because of the nature of the game, physical nature of the game, if you're not going hard, you're not going hard. And if you got to go hard, now you don't know how to.
Well, maybe I misspoke. What I meant was,
I'm not talking about effort. I'm talking about like hits.
Oh, I see.
Those things, because that's what you have to do.
Right.
You have to physically impose your will, your line against their line. Like and it seems as if they become a finesse team where they're usually bullies for the first half of a season. They're leaving teams in a bloody mess on the ice. And then the second half of the year, it's like, okay, we're good now. We don't want to get guys hurt. If you keep checking guys this way, you're going to get hurt. Pull back a little bit. Is that something that you can do in hockey? Because it seems to me that you couldn't say, okay, with football, don't hit them hard. Just, kind of bump into them. It's not going to work, I don't think.
Well, in hockey, though, you have a goaltender, and he can steal so many games.
He get hot.
Back when I was a kid, Ken Dryden was the goaltender for the Montreal Canadiens, and he absolutely stole hockey games. They'd get outshot 4-1, 5-1, and they'd still win by a goal on the low scoring game. And that guy looked like an octopus back then. It looked like he had 8 arms, and there was no. And nowadays, he'd just be an average size goalie. He was 6'4", average size goalie. I mean, the Bruins goalie last year, Olmark, he's 6'5", so he's bigger than Dryden. But you see a picture of Dryden, he looks like he's a giant out there. Everybody else was, 6'5", 6'7" inches shorter than him. So it just didn't even look like there was any room behind the net. So hockey is unique to that point. I think that you can be totally dominated and still win a game. And I played goalie in college, and I wasn't very good at it, but I learned that if you get outshot by a lot, that's an easier game for a goaltender because he's getting the puck all the time.
Right.
He's wheeling the puck, he's into the game. The tough one is the goaltender on the other end that's watching everything. And he's just standing there and he's freezing up. And all of a sudden, someone comes in on a breakaway and scores. And his confidence is gone and everything. So
no rhythm.
Goaltenders can carry teams to the Stanley Cup. We've seen it happen before.
They almost carried the Rangers.
I was about to say the Rangers was when Igor gave up that soft goal during I want to say game 3. And Garrett, to your point, the Rangers kept the pressure in the Panthers zone that whole period, and then before you know it, the puck trickles through his wickets, and that was it. And the Panthers go on; they win the series 4-2. I also want to make a point, and you said that, and I say this to all sports fans: if you really watched all the 4 major sports, I think the Stanley Cup playoffs, that is the hardest tournament to reach the pinnacle. The pinnacle.
A lot of reasons.
Yeah, a lot of reasons. And hockey got the coolest trophy by far. Lord's Stanley Cup. I actually got a chance to see it on display down here in South Florida. I'm not too far from the arena where the Panthers play at the Sunrise. And man, that's a cool cup. The second time I've seen it. I've seen it before when of course, I was out there on Lower Broadway when the Rangers won in '94. I was screaming, and I saw it again. But like I said, that is hockey. The hockey playoffs, the tournament, as y'all call it, that is the hardest. That Stanley Cup playoffs is the hardest, I think. And like you said, the war of attrition, players getting hurt, the goalie, being on point, and like you said, stealing games sometimes for you guys. Shout out to hockey, man. I love watching hockey. And you made a point too. I didn't think about. You said a couple minutes ago about you guys when you was younger, not able to watch Bruin home games, and during you, if you remember back in the days with the Knicks and Rangers, I never thought that. Yeah, we only was able to see Knick and Ranger games. Road games. I always see them in the road blues. Now they have switched back and forth, kind of like what they used to do back in the day with hockey. But any home games, like if I saw a home game, it was on national television. I was like, wow, see the Rangers and their home whites, the Knicks and their home white. Man, this is great. Unless I went to Madison Square Garden to see the game. So I didn't even think of it from that perspective of, like you said, blacking out the game. And now the four major sports, you can watch any game, anytime, stream it, whatever, go back and look at it. And I just think it's a great thing. Let me talk about basketball real quick with you. Garrett, what's your favorite Boston Celtics champion? Is it the Tatum they won this year? Is it the Bird years? Is it the you said you go back to Havlicek or those teams, Calvin's teams? I
would say the Bird teams, but the Bird team in '86, which had Bill Walton as their backup center, was a fantastic team, and they didn't get to play the Lakers in the finals because the Lakers didn't make it. The Lakers got upset by Houston, and everybody wanted to see that matchup to kind of, to validate our opinion that was one of the best teams of all time. So I really got into it when Bird got there because I watch greatness. I won't say I would watch basketball on a regular basis, but if Michael Jordan was playing and if it was on national TV, I would watch, or if it was a playoff game, I would watch because I knew I was going to see something that I hadn't seen before and that no one else could do. So that's what keeps me going in different sports. And just to sidetrack for a second, I used to play golf for a long time. And when Tiger Woods showed up, we scheduled our whole week around watching Tiger Woods because Tiger Woods every single week was up in the top 5 contending. And I have never seen a golfer be that consistently great. And I watched Nicklaus. I saw him for 15, 20 years. Fantastic. At that point, the greatest golfer of all time. Some still say that. But when I watched Tiger Woods, I saw shots that I've never seen before. And he was just so intimidating and so head and shoulders above everybody else that it was really sad to watch him physically deteriorate. And I'm just waiting for him to take a card on the senior tour and go out there and carve those guys up.
Yeah, well, when he can ride around, I think it'll be a lot easier. But off the tee, it was just so ridiculous. He left himself with 8 or 2 shots, and any 5-par hole, he was there in 2.
In 2,
and if he's pitching the putting after that, you're like, oh God. All right, let's write this one up and walk it off here. Let's walk it off. Come on, guys, let's go. Move, make a move,
Well, when a golf course changes because of how you play, that should tell you how good you are. And Masters isn't the only one that's done that. So when you leave a tournament and they say, wait a minute, we've got a problem here.
Yeah, we got to Tiger proof it, right? Remember that?
Yeah, well, a lot of times though, man, for a professional golfer, and I know one or two, one of the biggest things that you have to put in your toolbox is memories of courses. So when he got to the Masters, he knew what it looked like because he had memorized every hole. They had to change it. It didn't matter, hole position, you move the pin a little bit. That's fine. Green was still the same. Green was in the same place. I know where it's at, and I know how to get there. When they started moving that, then it's like, whoa. This used to be a par 4. Now it's a par 5. Now you're tiger proofing, but everybody else proofing as well because everybody scores. Started going down. But then again, some other guys kind of rose to the top. At least close seconds.
He is just a phenomenal talent, and I watch him anytime I get a chance. I watch the father and son tournament with the son, who looks like he's going to be a very good golfer.
Yes.
I can't get enough of watching greatness, really. So, and like I said, I played golf for decades, so I was really involved in it. And I'm telling you, we scheduled everything around Tiger Woods. And Sunday, any tournament, you couldn't get us out of the house unless it was on fire.
Yes.
We were going to watch Tiger Woods.
So, what was your take on that whole Live PGA thing a year or two ago?
I think it's kind of a joke, that league. I don't blame anybody that went to that league. There's no one that can tell me how much money I should and shouldn't make.
There you go.
I don't blame anyone for going to that league. But one thing that I knew was going to be a problem, and one thing that I didn't realize was going to be a problem, the thing I knew was 54 holes in a shotgun start is suicide. You can't come down the hike in the last round. One guy's on the third hole and the guy in second's on 15. So that didn't make any sense. And the other thing was, believe it or not, wearing shorts, because they looked like they were at tournaments that I used to play in. Like someone would have a benefit tournament and we'd all go in our shorts and golf shirts and play and maybe steal a beer here or there. And, everyone would be making noise all over the place. And that's just what they look like to me now, is that everybody looks the same as the crowd. Just those are the guys that happen to be between the ropes. Right. So I think that it looks, to me, just my opinion, it looks a little unprofessional with that. And with long pants, I mean, they make long pants now that are lighter than pillows. So like you're going to perspire greatly because your pants are long, So that's just my personal thing. I just think it doesn't look quite as professional. But the 54 holes, you can't work. You can't get
too hard
points on that because you're not playing a full tournament. So how do you expect to be ranked with everybody else when you're playing a 3-day tournament? It's just never made any sense to me. But I don't think it's going anywhere. I think the money is so significant that I hope they reach some kind of a deal between the two sides, because I do miss a lot of the players. I haven't watched Live Golf. I watched it once or twice, but I do miss some of the players that have gone to that league. And now when the majors come, that's the only time you really see all the best players together. So I hope they come to a resolution with that.
I definitely do too. What was your handicap when you used to play?
My best I was an 8.
Okay. Oh, man. And you say you don't play no more. You retired from playing that, or?
I had a minor injury that I thought was a minor injury in my wrist, and it turned out they had to fuse my wrist. So that was about 6 years ago. So that was that. But I played 45 years. And one thing about golf that's fantastic is you can play it for your whole life. And I played with my father and my brother and my friends for over 40 years. And I played with my father so often in the latter years of his life. And I just would say to myself, what other sport gives you this, where you can play with someone? You have a handicap, so it's a competitive game, but you're out there with people that you like for 4 hours in a beautiful course on a nice day. I mean, and you're walking, exercise. It's like, how do you beat that? So I'm resigned to the fact that I don't play anymore, but I miss it on occasion for sure.
Got you. I became a golfer and a golfer fan when Tiger Woods came along. Got me some clubs, got me some cleats. Well, I said not cleats. What is it? Cleats? Not whatever. Got me
Spikes.
some golf
Spikes.
spikes. Look good, look great. Had on the black and red and all that stuff. I still play. Well, can't play now. My shoulders hurt me a little bit, but I'm about to fix that. But like you said about Tiger Woods, man, he is must see TV, especially on Sunday when he was out in front or somebody was near him and he would just destroy him. Because like you said, once in a lifetime generation, and you know, on this show, especially me and DA, we always talk about how the press sometimes always wants to, hey, the next this, the next that. And DA, what's your favorite line?
Let history tell the story.
Very good.
That's it. Let history tell the story. Let just enjoy the journey of sports, and that's why I love sports. And I said, and it's in our little bio. Sports is supposed to just bring people together from all walks of life, man. When you go to a sporting event, and you know, what was it? About a couple years ago, I went to a Jacksonville, the Jaguars and Giants. I'm coming from Charlotte. Decided to hang out in Jacksonville, go to the game, and you know they're saying, "Hey, go back to New York." I was like, "No, I can't because I'm in Florida now, man." I said the taxes are lower, man, but go Giants, man. And, and it's just, I just love the camaraderie and stuff like that. You know, not some of the bad stuff you see at arenas with drunk people and stuff like that, which, you know, we see sometimes too often, man. But sports just bringing people together. And I would like to segue to your book. The name of your book. What's the name of your book? And how long ago did you write your book? Yeah.
It's called Fourth and Long, a Gridiron Parable. And I started writing it in 2016. And I finished it probably 3 or 4 years later. And then it had to go through all the editing and things like that. So the actual writing itself took a few years.
Okay. What was the inspiration behind it?
Well, I saw a story. There was a story about a high school senior with autism that was on the basketball team, but he didn't play. But since it was his senior year and the last game of the season, the coach decided he was going to put him in some point in the game.
Knocked him down.
The word got around campus that he was going to actually play. So the gym was packed. And with 4 minutes to go, the coach put him in the game. And he turned into LeBron James. He started throwing in baskets from all over the place. So at the end of 4 minutes, he had 20 points and was the leading scorer in the game. And his last shot was from half court, nothing but net. And the students flooded onto the court and grabbed him and carried him off victoriously. So that was the best feel-good story that I have ever seen. It was probably 20 years old now, and it was always in the back of my mind. So that got me thinking as I went forward to maybe creating a character that had a similar situation and set up an obstacle course to see how he could maneuver his way through life. So that's where the idea came from. And I chose football because football is really the biggest society of any sports. You've got 45 players on each side. So you've got all kinds of life situations and real life moments. And it gave me an endless possibility of creating situations to read about. And I didn't want to get too extensive about the football games themselves. So I didn't. I gave an overview to most of the games and got specific in a few of the games. And the book just seemed to come to me. And I was just very surprised that it happened. But the inspiration was that basketball player, and the fact that I had a sports background just played right into my hands of maybe I could write this. So I did. And the thing that surprised me was about halfway through the book, the ending showed up. And I hadn't anticipated that. So I wrote the ending. And once I wrote the ending, I realized that I was going to be able to finish the book. So I became very excited about that. So it happened. And someone read the book and said to me, "I can't wait for your second one." And I said, "My second one?" I was lucky enough to have the first one.
Get to it.
My brother told me, "Write what you know." So I'm writing a book now. I'm probably close to halfway through it. And the ending showed up again. Don't know why, but I stopped and wrote it. I'm happy with the ending. So I have the same confidence that I'll finish this book. So I was very surprised at the first book and really surprised to having a second book.
That's good. Congrats.
Yeah, congrats. I was about to ask. I says, yeah, is there act 2? But you answered our question, and that means we got to have you back on again to talk about the next book whenever it is published and ready to go. Go ahead, DA.
I do want to commend you and say thank you for writing your book. It's weird you said about football. I got a son that was probably an all-city football player, played college ball. He was dyslexic, and his coach had it's not nowhere near the extent of your character, and nor the guy, because I remember the young man that got in the game in the fourth quarter. It was on ESPN.
Yes.
I remember he was hitting threes. All he did was hit 3-pointers. And it's funny because people think that he's been watching the whole year and don't think that kid, wasn't there because he knew how to shoot. He knew what he was doing. When you showed it on ESPN, and it was almost like a cheat code, as the kids say, because they knew the other team wasn't going to, but he kept hitting threes. And then it almost got to a point, it was like, well, what do we do? What do we do? And it was like, there was nothing you could do because he kept hitting them. But I think that most folks don't give kids a chance. They're not aware as to how much they can do. You just got to give them the opportunity. You have to give the kids the opportunity. And I don't think there's much that kids can't do within reason. They're really resilient. You just gotta let them be resilient. You can't, we gotta let them be resilient. So, and sometimes it takes the school community and the kids around them to bring that out, where they're, not scared to try, at least. Because, most adults don't get to where they should go because they don't try. They don't have the confidence, and kids aren't they're not so encumbered by that. They could just go ahead and try.
Well, the other thing I wanted to point out too was if you have a network around you, if you have a strong family and friends, any kind of confidence that, any kind of praise they lavish on you builds your confidence. So it's so important to have a strong family background, I feel. And that gives you the confidence to go forward. And actually, when I started writing this book, after I wrote a couple of chapters, I gave it to my father and my brother. And I wasn't really interested in whether they liked the story or not. I just wanted to know if the writing was up to par. I didn't want to embarrass myself. And if they had said anything shaky, I know I would have never done it. But they were, in their opinion, the writing was good enough. It gave me a real shot of adrenaline, and I just went forward with that. So if you have someone behind the scenes sort of that's championing your cause, that means just so much for anyone, but especially for a child. If your parents are your biggest supporters, that's so huge. You have such a leg up on someone that's not lucky enough to be in that situation.
Sure.
Man,
for sure.
That's your book is pretty, like I said when I was reading some of the, not excerpts but from the I said, man, that's pretty amazing how, like you say, what we do with life, as they say, what you do in between the dashes, man, it's just so important. And DA, you pointed out how resilient kids is. Resilient is one of my favorite words. I love that word. I think one of my, what's resilience? The ability to bounce back when something knocks you down, right? And you got to keep up and keep going. And I just love when people show the ability to be resilient, and something that resilience you have to build up. Not born with it. You have to, you get knocked down, you get back up, keep on trucking and get back up. Kudos to you for taking the leap and making and putting something out that was on your heart and making sure you put it out and getting your story out. And I'm grateful that we connected on Podmatch, and so you can get your story out and your book out. And hey, can't wait to see what your second project is. Where can people get your book?
You can get the book on Amazon in hardcover, softcover, and ebook. You can get it on Kindle, and they can find me on Instagram or Facebook, and it's right there for the taking.
Gotcha.
Okay, good. And we're gonna have you back on during hockey season so you can relive all of your pain. We'll just have you on, and
bring it on.
Yeah, we're gonna let you and
The hockey dude.
You and the Penguin.
Yeah.
We'll let the Bruins and the Penguins kill each other while the Rangers, just
Penguins.
Yeah.
Want me to take it seriously? The Penguins.
I know.
Garrett, he couldn't be with us tonight, but I was trying to set up where Dan could be here. But Dorian, I didn't think of that. That's a great idea, sir. We would love to have you back when hockey season ramps back up and you and Dan get into it about the Bruins and the Penguins.
Bring it on. I'm ready anytime.
That would be priceless.
Someone told me I was going to speak to two gentlemen from New York about sports and actually have a good time. I would have been dubious of that, but it actually happened.
Hey man, we are a throwback.
Yes.
In that we're not a debate show. We're that, what was it when we were kids? 5 o'clock, 11 o'clock news guy that came on and ran through all the stories. Who played well, who didn't play well. This guy was a stinker tonight, man. He gave up 5 interceptions, and we go on to the next sport. Like, we're not debating with you whether he's a good guy or a good person or what his personal stance is on life. He threw 5 interceptions, and you're not going to go anywhere throwing the ball to the other team. Period. Next story. Like we don't.
Don't you find it a total distraction? All of the information that's placed in you. To your point, I want to know the score, who scored, how did the game go, and that's it. And you're just inundated with these distractions that, to me, it's very troubling to see, what kids are exposed to, how social media works. It's just, to me, it's frightening. I don't want to sound like an old man, but
no, you're talking to old men, so yeah, it's horrible.
We get way too much information and way too much negative information for sure.
Too much negative information, like you said, DA, about these kids, getting the newspaper, reading the box score, whatever sport. And what was it when the game was out in the West Coast?
Yeah,
it said not available or whatever.
Yeah, sometimes there was not a problem with, hey, who won the game last night? So it was just the Angels and the Yanks. I don't know. I went to bed. I go to bed at 9 o'clock. I don't know.
Yeah, you listen to 10 wins, right? The news on the 8th.
Yeah, listen, but if I didn't, I don't know who won. When I get the paper, if it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. Life doesn't end because I don't know. And to your point, Garrett, by spoiling this generation or another generation before that, probably my son's generations, they're used to getting all this information. So when they don't have it, they almost have an anxiety attack because they don't know everything right then and there. And my thing is, son, sometimes you don't have to know it all. It's not your business, right? If it's the sports you're into, then all you want to do is hear the scores and go on about your merry way. That's all life was about for us. It's not that we were stupid. We had imaginations. And we could, think about doing other things. And life is not just what we saw on the little screen. So that's me. And my wife gets infuriated with me because she'll call and I won't have the phone. You don't have your phone? Oh, no, I left it in I'm not tethered to a phone. There are times I don't call people back. I don't answer texts. I don't do any of it.
Well, that's the thing that's funny to me too, is they call it an instant message, right? So you get an instant message. That doesn't mean you have to answer instantly.
Nope.
But that's how they look at it. Like, oh, geez, hold on. I saw 4 kids sitting at a table in a restaurant. They all had their phones out.
Yep.
Looking down. I've seen people walk on the street, cross the street, looking down at their phone. It's just crazy.
I'm pretty sure there's a good amount of people get hit by cars doing that every year.
It's dangerous. And when I go out driving, I mean, it's crazy enough driving before the internet. So now you add in someone's texting while they're driving, you're paying more attention to something other than driving. You can't even walk the road for a second. Can change in a second.
I'm bad enough, man, where if I don't get the radio station on before I start driving, it doesn't get on until I stop again, because I don't want to hit that thing we got in the car, Kevin. That big screen I got in my car. I'm like, I don't want to touch it.
Right. GPS.
Yeah. It's like a TV screen in that thing.
Right.
It's definitely a lot of distractions.
Yeah. That's what I stay with.
Yeah. So. Garrett, we're absolutely, when hockey season starts up again, we're absolutely going to bring you back. This has been awesome. I can talk for another 2 hours. But I just love talking to people about sports, and definitely from different regions, and how they, your stories were very enlightening, were great. And through your eyes as a Boston sports fan, man, and as you feel about your Boston teams, that's how me and D feels about all. Well, he's a Niner fan. He fell off somewhere, not liking the Giants or the Jets. I don't know what happened there, but
sucked. All of the 70s. All of the 70s, they were both horribly bad. And then up until 86, the Giants, 85, the Giants were horrible.
Yeah,
the Jets were never good. No. It didn't matter. Kelly Green, other Green, it didn't matter what they were. They were absolutely abysmal. And, it was an affront to me. That was the only game I could watch on the weekends, was those two teams. So, yeah, so when I saw the Niners, like you said, greatness. I saw Joe Montana in college. They won I think it was the Rose Bowl against Texas.
I saw that game.
I was like, ooh, I like this dude. Then he went to the Niners. And I was like, the first year, wasn't too much. I think Wendell Tyler, O.J. Simpson was back. So it was a running back heavy thing. And then Bill Walsh came in and started switching things up. And then by 82, we were hitting on something. We were, I think 80 we won the first one.
What year was the catch? 81?
81. That was the first one we won.
Yeah, I'll never forget that Sunday. Yeah.
I still think Montana was throwing that away, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, man,
And I don't blame him. But
I do too.
That guy jumped so high. I've never seen anybody jump so
high.
Clark.
Wow. Dwight Clark, man. That
was the jump of his life.
Oh, yeah. Actually, he was throwing that ball. He just says that he wasn't.
Exactly.
Give you some cockamamie story about.
Well, it's got a good definition to the play, because it was the catch. It wasn't the pass. It was the catch.
The catch. Yeah. It was called a sprint option, right? Forget it, a lot of minutia. But again, Eddie DeBartolo treated his team different. They were the first team to have their own airplane to fly.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
He had a fund for retired players, Niner players. That if they needed something, there was a fund where everybody put in, and if someone needs some surgery or something after the fact, man, it was just a class act organization. And by the time I got to the second World Championship, I was like, man, we're good to go, man. We're cooking with gas here, man. And I've been with them since then.
But he supports the other. He's Knicks, Rangers.
Yeah, Knicks, Rangers, Yankees. Yeah.
Well, I was pulling for the Rangers last year after the Bruins were eliminated. I was pulling for the Rangers.
Yeah, good goalie play, but we
sorry to see them lose.
Too young and too soft. I hate saying soft.
But the Panthers were more physical. Panthers were definitely more physical.
Yeah, because these are professional athletes. And on our show, you'll know we'll never disrespect the pro, because all pros are better at what they do than I am at breathing. So I'm never going to disrespect a pro athlete of any sort. So I don't like calling them soft. But they were not ready for that Kachuk stuff. They just was not ready for it. Like,
Well, I worked with Tkachuk Matthew Tkachuk's grandfather. He was a firefighter where I was stationed, and his son, Keith, played in the Olympics and then played in the NHL for 14, 15 years.
Yeah.
Head over heels money. And then both of his sons are now in the NHL, Keith and Brady, and they're both in their early 20s, and they're two of the best players. And their grandfather couldn't stand up on skates if his life depended on it. We used to ask him, was your wife an Olympic skater or something? Where did you get this ability from?
This talent from.
But that was, I mean, that family tree, unbelievable. And they look like they're just getting started.
100%.
Yeah. There were times where the Rangers were looking at their bench like, what do I do? Right? Because the Goons are like, there are no more Hanson brothers in the league. You need to have a Hanson brother for a Tkachuk. You got to have one because he's a pain in the. They just noodle you. They noodle you. You're doing nothing to boom stick.
It's funny because I'll watch old hockey films and they'll show the brawls happening, and the poor referees and the linesmen are diving in there and trying to break it up. And I'm glad that nowadays they just let the guys fight. If they're gonna have a fight, it's gonna take about 30
let them tire themselves out. Yep.
Let them tire themselves out, and then it's resolved. So I don't mind seeing fighting in the game. I'm glad you can't empty the benches and interrupt the game for a half hour. But a good fight that lasts, half a minute, 45 seconds. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong.
Yeah, sure.
Not in that.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is Garrett Stapleton. Thank you so much. Hold on, let me give you some real applause there. Where's my applause? Yeah, there you go.
Thank
Garrett,
you very much.
Thank you so much. This has been really great. Like I said, when hockey season come around, we'll introduce you to Dan, the hockey dude, and the Bruins and the Penguins. I guess is going to duke it out.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
It's going to be good.
Ladies and gentlemen, hey, on behalf of myself, I'm Kevin L. Warren, your host and moderator for the DA and our guest, Garrett Stapleton. What's your name of your book again, Garrett, and where can it be found?
Fourth and Long, a Gridiron Parable. It can be found on Amazon and Kindle. And I'm on Instagram or Facebook.
Got you. Make sure you check it out, Garrett, and support him and grab the book. Let them know how you feel about the book. And definitely here too, man. Hey, I'm Kevin L. Warren, the host and moderator for the Sports Chasers podcast. Y'all be good, be great. Till the next time, we'll see you later. Peace.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Sports Chasers podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms, and connect with us on all social media channels for exclusive content and updates. We'd also love for you to join the conversation, share your thoughts, and become part of the Sports Chasers community. And remember to tune in next time for some more real sports talk. Until then, stay frosty.